听得到声音吗？谢董在吗？有人听得到声音吗？可以给我反应吗？Okay, okay, cool. So today I'm just going to be doing a kind of a freestyle lecture just on a couple of things I've been researching on because I love pop culture and about surrounding AI and different sci-fi things, and I've more or less become like a expert on Elon Musk. I'm trying to read his autobiography. I read the one in from 2015, and read that through like about a year ago, and I'm still reading through his or starting to read through his new one with Walter Isaacson as the author. Who was also the author of like the Steve Jobs autobiography from like probably like 2010, 2011. Also another book I happened to read in my sophomore year in NTU. So yeah, basically, let's just start off the presentation. So a brief self-introduction. I'm a second year master's degree student, so technically second semester because I 延后入学. And so I'm in Professor Liao's lab and obviously also a research assistant and a teaching assistant, as everyone knows. And I'm also working in an AI club in Tokai. And so we've had two presidents in between. And actually, in an hour from now, we're going to be going to Yedansen. So looking forward to that. And also, I've been working on the SQAI yearly conference that we hold on quantum AI intersection and the symbiosis of the two different technologies. And I also had my undergraduate here in NTU, CS. I've also worked with Google and Professor Liao's lab doing computer vision. And I've also worked on different marketing and event hosting in Microsoft. So I've done a pretty large like plethora of different past research, and I've kind of finally decided to force myself to converge on one because I have too many different interests, and there's no way to get good at absolutely everything. And so yeah, again, as I mentioned in Google, I've done some computer vision stuff, did some research paper reports, worked with a good friend Henry. He's now at AWS, and I've also had interest in blockchain, of course, and so took pretty much all of Professor Liao's classes, and also some fintech and DeFi experiences. And I know a lot of people have much more experience and knowledge in that field. And it turns out, so I'm going to be going back to the States for like 3 weeks, for 19 days, and the person I'm going back with, Samuel, he's like a video game designer, and he's creating his own video game called Luminous, Luminis. And that video game is particularly about, you have an FPS, but it's not about destroying, it's not about killing, it's about healing, and it's about ending the plague for the animals in order to bring peace to the world. And I also have interest in robotics, reinforcement learning, multi-agent reinforcement learning, AIoT, the different metaverse platforms, and I've also done a tiny bit on compiler and some on quantum AI as well with Sky. So, but yeah, I finally decided for my master's degree to just focus on one thing: natural language processing, the intersection between language and processing, which is the computing. So that is a self-introduction, and this is since this is a pretty freestyle lecture and it's for fun. So basically, I was also watching something called The Last Stand, which came out, and it's like a pretty popular film. I think maybe a lot of people already have seen it. And basically, aliens they come to observe humanity, and they find that humanity is just basically driven by all kinds of like different rivalries and grudges and political ties. And these political ties cause the failure to have any form of unified or coordinated effort in order to achieve like this humanity unified goal. And it causes just division and derision and inefficiency. And since it's a bonus lecture, I'll also show you guys the entire video. I think it's 10 minutes long, and I just watched it about an hour or two ago. It's pretty good. Let's see, I'm going to see if I can get this a little bit louder. The annoying thing is that I can't click on the audio if it's Oh, you know what? If I click on that, then it should work. Mirror displays. Yeah. Oh, you can just X out of that. Cool. Okay, so let's play this video. Last Stand. Yeah, cool. So the video just finished, and basically there are a couple things that are pretty interesting that you can see. The first one is that the human aliens did absolutely nothing harmful to humans in this entire video, and the humans just reacted in this very discordant manner, where basically they realized the scale of the threat that was happening, to the existential threat that was happening, and as a result, just had all-out nuclear war. And this would be a lot more obvious of a threat than the existential threat that maybe AI in the future does pose to us. But basically, you can see the NATO versus Russia, China, and basically a lot of different political ties and rivalries, and failure to have any form of a coordinated effort. And we can see that the Earth is going back to its original state in kind of like this Stone Age, as a result of lack of belief in humanity's efforts to be able to unite. And so they're giving the planet a second chance, but that makes it ambiguous whether the humans are still there, because you can see at the last scene that there is at least plant life. I didn't see any animal life. I didn't see any humans. And something interesting that we realize is that as humans, we exist on Earth, and if we go extinct, if we went extinct, the things that would be left, the remnants that would be left would be like what you saw in this video with Voyager 1 and Voyager 2. That would be one of the biggest remnants of humanity's existence that is able to travel very quickly and to other star systems at a rather rapid rate. And obviously, we've also left our digital footprint and radio signals. So if Earth somehow poofed out of existence, or if humans went extinct, or if something happened where the face of the Earth was completely destroyed, we do have some things that would be left in our galaxy. And right now, I think that if you actually look at, I remember from looking a few years back at a video on this before, and it actually turns out that the radio footprint that we left behind so far in our galaxy is rather small. But eventually, eventually our radio footprint is going to spread throughout the rest of the galaxy, and over a very long term to other galaxies. And so I think that it's really, really important, first, that we have effective mechanisms in which to identify when there are existential threats. For example, if aliens arrive, and it could very well be from our incentivized methods of sending out the Voyager rapid spacecraft to be able to explore other star systems, and things like Cassini and other spacecraft. And being able to collect data on that is also very important. But basically, going back to the Stone Age, and so I think that it's very important that we have unified efforts when it comes to dealing with any form of existential crisis. And so I watch Elon Musk a lot, as you might be able to guess, and and so recently he went into Lex Fridman podcast. It was about a month or two ago, so it's been a little while since I actually saw the entire podcast. But as you guys know, he's been working in XAI, and XAI right now, I think, as far as I'm aware, their main contribution right now is Grok. And Grok it has a fun mode and it has the serious mode, but Grok is largely just a response to the very sort of politically correct sort of you could say like determined responses by chat and predictability by ChatGPT as a way to be at least a little bit more fun. But even in Grok, the fun mode is not all that fun. I think they're open for beta access right now, but it gives funny responses, but it's not going to go to something extreme. It's not going to go to something extreme. I haven't been able to access the beta so far yet, but I have seen it being used by Lex Fridman. And yeah, again, I always recommend watching Lex Fridman. He's a great podcaster. and I've been watching him for several years. And he's a researcher, MIT, and then also computer science and AI expert. He's done a lot of autonomous vehicle research and a lot of computer vision research, and an AI expert. And the thing about Lex Fridman, the interesting thing about Lex Fridman is that he is able to communicate. He has a way of communicating with literally everybody. Like he's easygoing, so that goes well for him when it comes to inviting different people to speak in his podcast. He's not going to go and like attack that person for their views or something like that. He's able to understand and empathize with just about everybody, and I think that's his strong suit. And I think he has several million followers on YouTube, and he's the #1 podcaster when it comes to tech. Of course, there's also like the Joe Rogan. I'm pretty sure Joe Rogan's also good friends with Lex, and Lex was also previously covering the. He was also previously covering that predicted or just in the talk fight between Elon and what's his face, Mark Zuckerberg, and actually Lex does a lot of jujitsu, and so. And he's very skilled at it, and he's been doing it for many years. But it turns out Mark Zuckerberg is actually like on equal level to Lex when it comes to jiu-jitsu. After a lot of fights in, like I think he's been in jiu-jitsu for like 1 year, but it turns out that they canceled that fight because Elon's already like 54, 55. And he's already almost in his mid-50s now, and like he has a back problem. And I think he has back problems. So he had injuries, and so that's why they canceled that fight. And but basically, there's something you can see in Elon Musk is that he goes into every aspect of popular culture so as to promote his content. He loves to kind of stir up controversy to I would like to call it controlled controversy, because he's not going to just do anything. But he everything he does is very planned. It's pretty surprising. It looks on the surface like it's not planned, but if you dig deeper into it, even the like sometimes childish humor that he posts on X, it has like deeper meanings into it. It's kind of interesting. But basically, everything he does is planned. And Lex Fridman is great friends with him. On this podcast, they talk about different things like the war in Ukraine and different possibilities of war in the future, and also in Israel and Palestine. And they talk again about XAI and Grok, and they also talk about AI safety, and also on the possibility of alien life. And so far, there's been no signs or evidence of alien life in any planet that we have been able to observe in at least the observable universe. That does lead to the topic. We don't know how large the observable universe is, and so as a result of that, it turns out that it's very difficult to have a clear response to the kind of Boolean question of whether alien life actually does exist. But there's something that I find very, very interesting when it comes to Elon's political views, and when it comes to tackling different issues. So he self-claims to be a moderate. Ever since he moved to America, like he grew up in like South Africa. He went to school in like Canada, and then he also went to school in like University of Pennsylvania, and also Stanford for a little bit before like dropping out, like pretty much at the beginning of the semester. But basically, like he wanted at that time, he wanted to take on the .com bubble burst, and he wanted to make his own contributions to it, and which he did. And so Elon, getting back to the political discussion, Elon has very interesting views when it comes to everything. He always uses a conservative argument to kind of reach or attain the ideals of the left. And one perfect example of that is using conservative arguments to push I wouldn't call it pushing the left agenda. That sounds like a negative connotation. But being able to achieve the ideals of the left. when it comes to environmentalism. And he talks about, like, for example, the use of oil and petroleum, and he talks about that over the short term, we are going to need, we do need oil, but over the long term, we need to have more time than maybe some environmentalists are claiming when it comes to actually having like a proper transition between the conventional energy methods and the new energy methods. Now, something interesting is that Elon will always claim that he is the biggest advocate, not only the biggest advocate, but he's also the biggest contributor when it comes to pushing the new forms of energy, and when it comes to environmentalism. He basically indirectly claims that he's the biggest environmentalist without actually supporting the mainstream cause of environmentalism. And so he's using these pragmatic, because there's something else that I found really interesting. So I've been following a lot on Lex Fridman and Elon. So you see the keywords on this slide: pragmatism, and you also see the keyword truth-based. And so at least in in the American left, the American right wing, it's like pragmatism, like practicality-based stuff, and also like having truth. Like, for example, if you see like Elon, where he was talking about like, oh, ChatGPT is not accurate and has a bunch of hallucinations, or it's too politically correct in order for it to give you a legitimate response. Therefore, we need a truth GPT. And there was that truth GPT. And then, but he was in this podcast criticizing Elon Musk, he was criticizing Trump for claiming that Truth Social was fully truth-based. Like, how truth-based is Truth Social? So how truth-based is the company that claims to be, or the social media platform that claims to be fully true on Truth Social? And so there is that sort of discussion. But when it comes to environmentalism, when it comes to AI safety and AI regulations, he oftentimes will he will emphasize the personal need, especially not just the governmental need, but the personal need to kind of take your own steps to promote environmentalism by being very energy efficient and conservative in this, not in a political sense, but in a resources and usage, in a resourcefulness sense, I suppose. And so that kind of ties back into when it comes to climate change, we need to be long-term focused and not short-term focused. And according to Elon, I'm not saying this for myself, but according to Elon, he thinks that basically climate change is something that's being overhyped by environmentalists. It's being overhyped, and also that there is this group of environmentalists that actually claim that the Earth is better without humans, and that we should end our existence here and stuff like that. It's pretty bizarre, but and he uses that as an extreme, and that kind of ties back into Elon always wants to fight against extremism. He claims that X is for the middle 80%. So the 10% that are the most left and the 10% that are the most right, they might be, or they might not be a fit environment for them, not environmentalist environment, but when it comes to a social media environment for them. And so, yeah, basically when it comes to his views on that, I think this press conference was in Italy, and I was just seeing it a few hours ago. And I saw the first 20 minutes of it so far, and it really ties in back with. I'm surprised with how close Elon Musk and Lex Fridman seem to be, because in that press conference he was talking directly about what Lex Fridman had posted on Twitter/X just a week ago, about pragmatism and truth-based things. So as you guys might know, basically, say what you want of him, he's basically always physics-based, and he always believes in tracing everything back to the principles of physics. And if something can't be reliable from a physical perspective, then it can't be reliable on an invention when you try to bring it into reality through invention. And I would say that Elon probably believes that the best path when it comes to engineering as a whole is that everything has to start from physics. Some people might argue that math is the root of physics, and then you could start from even just the math of it. But one thing that Elon is always pushing is he wants to understand the reality of reality itself. He wants to understand the world, the truths of the world, or he wants to understand the truths of the universe. And I kind of view his move on acquisition of X as maybe a way of gaining more data on humanity in order to better understand humanity, and in order to push his obsession / drive for understanding and gaining scientific understanding. And so that's a pretty interesting topic. But basically, everything for Elon Musk has to be physics-based, and it has to be reliability-based in order for it to be a legitimate invention. If you look at like what's his name? Not Joe Rogan, but what's his name? Thinking of the professor in Canada. Give me a minute. The name of that professor in Canada that's psychology and psychiatry. Jordan Peterson. So Jordan Peterson says like Elon Musk is like 1 in 1,000 when it comes to his not altruism, but his like practicality approach. He's also 1 in 1,000 when it comes to his creativity. So Jordan Peterson basically thinks that Elon Musk's skills are like 1 in 100 million or 1 in a billion because of the combination. Because creativity and like time management / discipline skills, those two separate things, they tend to be independent of each other in most circumstances. And so when you have someone that's able to be 1 in 1,000, like there are 1,000 people in the room, you're the top 1/10 of 1%, just like how, anyways, I'm not going to get into that. But you're top 1/10 of 1% when it comes to your creativity. That's already pretty insane. You're the #1 most creative person in the entire room. And 1 in 1,000 when it comes to your skills for time management and being able to transition. Now, I was watching recently another podcast on like Walter Isaacson. And Walter Isaacson, again, he's written a bunch of different autobiographies. Not only, I'm going to write his name on the board for Professor Dow's notes. So, Walter Isaacson. I think yeah. Hopefully people online can see that. So yeah, that's his name. And he's one of the most famous authors when it comes to writing people's autobiographies. He's also written like the biography on like Ben Franklin and like a bunch of other famous people. But he's also a professor, and there's something interesting, and particularly this podcast. It has absolutely nothing to do with the Walter Isaacson podcast, but that large language models lack a specific ability. And that ability in particular is the ability to revise its content in a way that like an author might have to revise his content, to look it over and to be able to, he thinks that that's probably one of the biggest development, not only developmental trends, but developmental capabilities that could be enhanced in the future. Because we see all kinds of AI generated content. And Elon will say basically that the more you need the content, the more you need specific content from a large language model, the less reliable it will be. The more you need it, the more hallucinatory it will be, because because it's able to access truly truth-based evidence and information. But when it comes to its own inferences, which is what you can't find in a search engine, which you can only find with ChatGPT or with Grok or with like any other platform, then it tends to be more hallucinatory. And so that is those are a couple of the difficulties that large language models have kind of faced over the last several years. And so when it comes to being able to have authors' ability to revise, when it comes to that, the context window of a large language model, and kind of having an entire direction on your generated text that is related to the larger picture as a whole, you need to take into account the entire context, and you need to be able to do that with different weighting. you need to be able to assign weighting that is important. Like you need to be able to flag what part of a conversation or what part of a text is actually important and what part of a text is pretty irrelevant and relevant to what. And this can be a very difficult task on some level for large language models. And so that's inhibiting some of the progress when it comes to parsing the vector space and using an entirely mathematical method that authors, whereas authors would. But we're trying to translate everything that humans do into basically putting it into a larger scale, and that's what artificial intelligence is all about. Is making everything different, artificially and automated. And so when in the process of trying to make everything automated, we first have to identify the skills. We first have to identify what it is that humanity is capable of, or what it's not capable of, what we're not capable of, because it turns out that the stuff that humans are capable of, we can automate. And the stuff that we're not capable of, well, that's the stuff we really, really need to use AI for, because like, for example, when it comes to exploring Mars for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, that's not something that's ever going to be possible. Now, I call myself a Martian because I sleep for 25 hours sleep cycle. I would probably be more fit for when it comes to Martian. But still, that doesn't qualify me as a rover, because a rover is able to do 24/7. So when it comes to scientific discovery and being able to automate and being able to overcome the weaknesses or the different things that inhibit humans' ability to advance scientific discovery or technological development, that tends to be one of the main focuses of AI. Hey, Curtis. And so what is engineering all about? Engineering is all about inventing things that have never existed and in ways that you didn't know would be possible. And so when it comes to his motivation, like Elon Musk's motivation for XAI, he actually thought he actually saw ChatGPT and saw a bunch of weaknesses in it with Ilya, who he does tend to like the chief scientist of OpenAI, Ilya, and he's had mixed feelings over the years. Like he once supported Sam Altman. Again, keep in mind, Elon had he co-founded, and also he was the one that came up with a name for OpenAI. So he was the one that came up with the name for OpenAI, and he helped to derive it or to devise its mission. And he thinks that OpenAI again has strayed from its initial goals of being able to democratize and publicize and being able to open source all kinds of different models and all kinds of different discoveries. And so that's kind of one of his biggest motivations for starting XAI. But we often see something called the unified field theory, the unified field theory, and that's with Elon Musk. You'll see that Elon Musk starts all kinds of different businesses over the years. And so the unified field theory is basically that he wants to have, I wouldn't call it a monopoly on the tech industry, but I would call it it's pretty interesting. Like he wants to be able to do whatever his other businesses are currently incapable of with a new business. So he wants to be able to automate absolutely everything. He doesn't want to have to rely on any other external resources or external business. He wants, like, for example, what Tesla is currently not capable of. Maybe like XAI would be able to help them out on some certain AI tasks, and more AI technical based things. And then when it comes to SpaceX and his development of SpaceX over the years, he's never wanted to rely on getting external parts for spaceships. He already learned his lesson when he went to Russia like 20 some years ago or something like that, when he was just starting out SpaceX. And like when he went to Russia, he found that they were unwilling to unwilling to sell the I think it's called the oligarchs, the OLIGARCHS. The oligarchs, or just the rocket billionaires, were unwilling at that time to sell the rocket for a price that at least Elon called reasonable. I don't know if it was actually reasonable. And so as a result of that, that was always the motivation that he cites for starting SpaceX and being able to be completely 自给自足, or just like autonomous, or being able to be self-reliant on all of its resources. Like, for example, different radio parts they've developed on their own. And whenever they find some specific costs to be too high externally, they'll always do it on their own. And then Elon will take whatever he has in one company and be like, oh, hey, wait a minute, we have teams of researchers in one company, and they're doing something very similar to something in a different company. And so he wants to be able to take the entire like supply chain of the things he's working on, be able to have it in like this layered sort of diagram to allow for him to control the entire process. And so that's kind of Elon Musk's entire unified field theory. And that's what I read. I think it was in the last chapter of Elon Musk's first autobiography. So I still technically haven't read his second autobiography yet, which was with Walter Isaacson. But well, basically, yeah, it's like 900 some pages in Chinese, and my speed of reading Chinese is about 10 pages per day, so it's pretty slow. It takes me an hour. And if it was like in English, I'd read in like 20, 30, 40 pages or something. But and so that's the first book. Second book I'm reading, it's fully in Chinese. That's actually not like a kid's book, but so and finally getting to this last point. So Sam Altman, when it comes to and I was talking with Professor Diao on this kind of briefly, is that Sam Altman was ousted from OpenAI like a month ago or so, and we don't really know the reason. We don't know the reason why OpenAI had ousted Sam Altman. Hold up, what the heck is going on? Like, people are like, this is like some major discovery was just discovered, and that caused him to be ousted. We don't know what happened. It wasn't publicized. The reason that was publicized is probably not the real reason. And in the most recent press conference in Italy, Elon Musk was talking about how he thinks that it was this major scientific discovery, major AI-based discovery that had a huge implication on AI safety, and that's what caused him to be ousted. Again, I was also telling Professor about this, but I think it's called Q-Star. That's what they're developing right now. I'm not sure about the progress of GPT-5, but they're working on Q-Star. And I mean, if you guess based on the name, it's probably quantum plus who knows what the star is. But it probably has something to do with that. And so this is going to be, I'm just going to warn everybody that AI development is going to be the #1 cause of concern for future development in our field, which is STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And just the direction that AI is going to be going in, and being able to align AI's goals with humans, with human reasoning and human goals, is going to be the biggest task for all of humanity over the next several decades. And it's my favorite topic to talk about, but basically AI safety concerns are dividing the AI community like never before. We didn't think, I mean, I could see, like, from a creative perspective, I can see like why AI is able to generate, it's able to create its own things that are then that improve itself, and then because of it improving itself, it's able to improve itself at an even faster rate. And so when you improve the mechanisms that you use to improve yourself, then you have an exponential trend. And so that's not the only factor. That's not the only layer when it comes to AI safety and exponential development. There's another thing that's going on. We find that when we give ChatGPT more and more of our data, that it gives better and better responses. So the more data we give it, and the more data we generate that's about ourselves, the better it gets. And then as a result of giving it more information, then the model is able to train again, and then the model itself is able to get better. And as a result of the model being able to get better, it's able to do even more things, and we give it even more data, and then the model retrains itself and gets even better. And this is also another exponential loop. And so from not only a creativity perspective, but also from a data and retraining perspective and quantity of data perspective, we also have exponential trends when it comes to not only the development of large language models, but of all AI models as a whole. And now we also see another trend in the AI industry when it comes to the merging of computer vision and natural language processing models. We see vision transformers. I think 那个 AI 社的技术部的一个人，他叫瑞敏，然后他上礼拜有来演讲，and he's researching on vision transformers and being able to, like, for example, use a prompt that is then the meaning of it is derived through an NLP model, and then you use it to create something new, and to create a new picture, for example. And so basically, we also have like a Midjourney version 6. Midjourney version 6, I saw like a week ago for this fella, Lex Fridman. Like he posted a picture of him talking about AI security in like a serious tone with AI, and it turns out it generated this very, very like serious looking picture of like an AI computer talking to Lex Fridman, talking to this figure that apparently looks like Lex Fridman. And it was very, very good. And if you compare Midjourney version 6 with, like, for example, the first Stable Diffusion, there's a huge difference. I mean, there's a lot of uncanny valley type content that can be generated. My computer is low on battery, but there's a lot of uncanny valley, like or whatever you call it, content that can be generated with AI. But that's becoming, on some level, more advanced, and on some level, it's less the case. It's less the case that we have this uncanny valley content because it's more true to the data that's being fed into it, and it's able to identify different trends and features inside of that data from an ever more accurate perspective. Yeah, and just like I was just gonna go briefly over like internet of chatbots. So we have like MediaTek Da Vinci, and I saw that they were like using it to generate a picture of cats. And we have more and more, kind of speaking from a general perspective, we have more and more companies that are kind of generalizing their customized large language models to conform to the needs of their specific business and just fine tuning it. And we often see like with like what Albert always says about fine tuning BERT, it's nice and computationally cheap and also quick to be able to train your own version of BERT, which is able to get the majority of like typical simple tasks done. Whereas if you want to be able to get something a little bit more advanced done, then you might want to go with like GPTs or something a little bit more advanced. And then we have like different ideas that have been coming up with recently. We have Cody, which I think is a pretty clever name. Code and then Cody. It's not a common name, but it's not an uncommon name either. And then we also have like what Riemin is researching it with Vertex AI and also Mark. And then we have this thing called DocsGPT. And DocsGPT. And DocsGPT is about generating documentation through, or sorry, not generating documentation. That was our idea. So for using documentation and be able to feed into the model in order to be able to ask questions to it, because humans don't like using this entire like syntax and like having to memorize a huge bunch of stuff in order to be able to communicate with the computer. People just want to use natural language because that's the simplest thing to learn for anybody, and that's specifically the reason why people have for example private instructors, or they have different jiajiao. What is jiajiao in English? Tutors, and they have different tutors, and you're able to just ask these natural language questions, and people like the human touch of things. And so when you take away the human touch with AI and large language models, there can be some argument that can be said that takes away the human touch, and people are able to communicate and have emotional connection with something that at least looks like a human a little bit better than with something that looks like just a typical computer or your MacBook or your Lenovo or whatever it is. And I think Elon was able to identify this trend, this pattern with humans, and he was like, okay, well then let's create a humanoid robot that's like really cheap and what's called Megatron. It's interesting that you choose the name Megatron because there was also like this Google model that was developed a couple years ago, and it was one of the biggest models created at that time. And so Megatron is just this It's the bot that the Tesla bots that they're developing, and they want to be able to democratize because that's of course the biggest trends. If you don't have, I like to say, if you don't have a mission when it comes to your AI organization, if you just want to have a default mission, then you're like, okay, we want AI democratization in this area, or we want AI democratization in that area. And so if you want to create an AI organization that's like pretty generic, it's doing something that's very meaningful. Don't get me wrong, but if you want to have something that's like kind of you don't have the mission discovered yet, so you can use that as your mission. And so that's the default sort of template that you can take in order to create your AI organization. Okay, so that's kind of a brief run through on a few different things. In this lecture, I also included some bonus content from AI Club that I had talked about 7 months ago, and it was on, I just called it NLP, or NLP technologies in the age of generative AI. And like I know that you too, Lao Shi, he had heard, and I gave it in a previous class last semester, not only in AI Club but also in the previous lecture. So for the interest of time, we have 1 hour left in this lecture. It's 6:30 or almost 6:30, and so I'm just going to leave this as a link, and I'm going to provide my my PowerPoint link to. I'm going to get rid of the screenshot to code portion. So I've already covered an hour. So I'm going to basically just provide the link for my PowerPoint, and also I'm going to send the 20 minutes of lecturing to the TA training thing. And now that's my lecture. And then if Professor Liao or Peter has anything to discuss or to play the video on the homework or the final projects, then I'm going to hand over the discussion to them. Thank you.
Thank you. Field 3 是什么 ？Unified Field 3.
Oh yeah, the Unified Field Theory. Yeah. So the Unified Field Theory is so it's a theory, and basically, like Elon Musk will see like something that kind of goes out of the perspective of one of his businesses, and he's like, should Tesla really be focused that much on AI? And it's like, okay, or should Twitter, which is a social media company, should it be that focused on AI? And so it's like, okay, now we're going to take some of those tasks and we're going to create a new company and call it AI. And so he wants to be able to take every task and every single process and every single tool that any of his companies needs and be able to do it himself. It's all about being able to do it with that conglomerate, the conglomerate of tech companies. And it's kind of an interesting comparison that you can make, because if you compare Elon Musk like to, for example, Robert Downey Jr., then, or like Iron Man, like Iron Man in the Iron Man videos or Avengers and stuff, he has the largest tech conglomerate in the world that's worth hundreds of billions of dollars, and so that, I feel like there are a lot of really surprising similarities between Elon Musk and Iron Man. And the more you dig into it, the more you realize, like, dang, this is like interesting. It's almost like Iron Man is like designed to be just like Elon Musk. I don't know why, but that's a common comparison that people have made. But then when you look into it, first of all, you'll see Iron Man 2, like Elon Musk shakes hands with Robert Downey Jr. He's like, Tony, I have an idea for a electric jet. And he was like, and then Tony Stark was like, we'll make it happen. And so it's like, well, that's such a cool scene. Okay, so that's kind of unified field theory, being able to automate all the processes and be able to create all the tools that you need in order
in the same conglomerate.
Yeah, in that same conglomerate, exactly, with all the different companies that he has.
Okay, thank you so much. Yeah. Thanks. Yeah. 就叫他这个你那是那个你那在那边
对，我的是
好
对但是你有转接头吗？你这个要再走。对，因为我等一下要那还好，你可以明天再还，但我后天要好，我后天会出发，
后天早上出发。
对，后天早上。
因为
那我先传那个链接给老师。